With the presidential race, state elections, and votes on changing the Minnesota state constitution, there was no shortage of political news for those at home or those attending the 2012 Minnesota State Fair. Thousands embraced the political season and came out again to the House of Representatives booth at the fair. There they rubbed elbows with legislators, learned about their state government, and took the House's annual opinion poll.
Taking part in the voting process isn't difficult. You take a ballot, mark your answers, and then you send it through the voting machine. And while the process isn't difficult, voicing your opinion this way is worthwhile.
The non-scientific 13-question survey gives a heads up to what Minnesotans are thinking on a variety of high-profile topics, from a helmet requirement for motorcyclists to the expansion of legal fireworks, and whether all school districts should be permitted to start school before Labor Day.
There are a lot of good ones. There's a few that caught me off guard a little bit, but I liked them.
I thought they were very current and very timely and relevant to the issues coming up in the upcoming elections.
Let's take a look at the issues, fairgoers' comments, and the results from our 2012 opinion poll. Chances are you have a Facebook account or have thought about joining the social media bandwagon, but would you be willing to give the keys to your account to an employer? Some employers have begun requiring job applicants to provide private username and password information to their social media accounts. Employers would then have access to everything a potential employee posts online. Proponents say it's a good screening tool for businesses, while opponents say it's an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, I don't think employers should have a right to dig into your personal matters, to have your personal password to social media, so I said no on that one.
That's not the only business question fairgoers got to weigh in on. Another question asked, should companies that violate environmental laws be ineligible for state tax breaks or subsidies?
Corporations should not be allowed to benefit if they're hurting the environment and by extension hurting the citizens of the state of Minnesota.
Although a bill on this subject was not introduced last biennium, it does elicit thought on what is a greater priority, protecting the environment or protecting the financial interests of businesses. If you've ever tried to buy off-sale liquor on a Sunday in Minnesota, you know you can't. Minnesota is one of 14 states that prohibits Sunday liquor store sales. Opponents of this law argue that Minnesotans who want to buy alcohol on a Sunday will just take their business across state lines and buy alcohol in neighboring states. While supporters say if someone knows they want beer or liquor on a Sunday, they will just buy it before then. The Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association is one group that also supports the law, saying that many so-called mom-and-pop stores don't want to be opened on Sundays. From the workforce to the classroom, education topics were also seen on this year's opinion poll. One question looked at the age-old debate of when school districts should be allowed to start classes each year. Under current law, school districts cannot start the school year before Labor Day unless an exception applies. Supporters, like resort owners and those in the agricultural business, say starting school before Labor Day would have a negative impact on their businesses, while opponents say there should be local control over school calendars, not state control. Currently, when schools need to lay off teachers, they must determine who will lose their job based on seniority. House File 1870 sought to change that process by authorizing districts to use performance evaluations in addition to licensure field and seniority in layoffs. Supporters say the bill allows districts to retain more effective teachers, while DFLers criticize the bill, calling it a hasty approach to education reform.
As a teacher, I of course like having the seniority as being a big part because it worries a lot of teachers that if we have to be only relying on a principal's thing, that sometimes if a principal gets angry at you, you won't advocate for your students correctly. Or, if you're in a small town, maybe you can easily be run out of town by some of the people. So we really like having the seniority. Other areas are good to be looked at, but keep the seniority. It's what we all say.
In child custody disputes, a parent is currently entitled to receive at least 25% of parenting time. The poll asked fairgoers if each parent should be guaranteed at least 45.1% of parenting time. The question is based on the Children's Equal and Shared Parenting Act, a measure that Governor Mark Dayton vetoed, saying that each divorce is different, so a one-size-fits-all approach to parenting time is not appropriate. Safety is always a concern for parents. One poll question asked if consumer fireworks like bottle rockets and firecrackers should be legalized. The use of party poppers, snappers, toy smoke devices, snakes, glowworms, and sparklers are illegal under current Minnesota law. Proponents of legalizing more dangerous fireworks note that the state is losing money since many Minnesotans cross into neighboring states to buy fireworks they can't get in Minnesota. However, those who oppose legalizing more types of fireworks say it's the government's responsibility to protect the safety of its citizens.
I don't think we should expand fireworks. I think leave it the way we've got it. That's all we need. We don't need any more explosives in the state of Minnesota.
Why do you think that?
Well, I live in the city, and city houses are very close to one another. If somebody starts shooting off these major rockets for 4th of July, there's a chance that in these old wood structures and roofs, they could land in the wrong spot and ignite something on the home, and that would be a bad thing.
Another safety question looked at the right to defend oneself. The so-called Castle Doctrine was vetoed by Governor Mark Dayton. The bill, sponsored by Representative Tony Cornish and Senator Gretchen Hoffman, would have repealed a defender's duty to retreat from danger if possible before using defensive force when the person is in a public place where the person has a right to be and is acting lawfully. Opponents say the bill gives people a license to shoot first before asking questions. Supporters say the bill would have allowed people to stand their ground and better protect themselves, their family, and others. Sticking with safety, earlier this year a bill proposed would have required motorcyclists to wear a helmet. The bill failed to gain committee approval in the House and Senate. Those who oppose the helmet requirement say it restricts freedom of choice, while supporters say it promotes personal safety.
It seems like an infringement on your liberty, and yet I know there's good intentions behind it. So I would always wrestle with that one, even with seatbelts. I've had that same opinion.
One question on this year's opinion poll asked if the state should collect sales tax on items currently not subject to sales tax when downloaded from the internet. Proponents say collecting taxes on items such as books, movies, and music that are not currently taxed would help bring in much-needed revenue to the state. Fairgoers were also asked if Hmong American and Lao American veterans who fought on the U.S. side during the Vietnam War should be eligible for burial at the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery near Camp Ripley. The House Veterans Services Division approved a bill earlier this year that would expand burial rights to about 400 Allied veterans from the American Secret War in Laos during the 1950s, who currently live in Minnesota, and to deceased Hmong Americans and Lao American veterans. Supporters say this would give honor to soldiers, while others raise concern that this legislation may open the door to other groups from subsequent wars and conflicts that want to receive similar state and federal benefits. This election year, there will be a number of important questions on Minnesotans' ballots, including defining marriage and requiring a photo ID to vote. In order for those proposals to change the state constitution to be on the ballot, a simple majority of the House and Senate had to approve. We wanted to know if fairgoers thought there should be a higher threshold. Arguments for a higher threshold include that it should be more difficult to change the Constitution than a bill. Arguments against a higher threshold center on the right of voters to have a say on controversial issues. Finally, with the recent redistricting, we asked fairgoers if they knew which legislative district they were in. The Senate had a booth set up to help people if they didn't know. This year, more than 9,000 people took our poll. We would like to thank all the poll takers. Time will tell if any or all of these issues will come up in committee or on the floor. But even if they don't, these questions hint at what Minnesotans are thinking and maybe got voters fired up to voice their opinion in the upcoming elections.